Hey there guys, this is Don from Prana-Tech. Today's video I'm going to be doing a review of the brand new YesWelder Firstess CT2050 Tig welder. Alright, before we get too far into the review, I need to clarify that this is a prototype and that YesWelder will be making continuous improvements, adjustments before the final production unit is released to the public. When I first got this, I was pretty excited because it's not only a TIG welder, but it's also a 45 amp plasma cutter with a built-in compressor, so that you not only have a TIG welder, but you have a plasma cutter, and it's also a 200 amp stick welder. It's also a dual voltage. It's 120 volts or 240. So okay, I need to freeze here and just make a correction because YesWelder let me know that it's not just dual voltage, it's universal voltage, and it will work from 96 volts all the way up to 265 volts. No matter where you go, you can have a TIG welder, a plasma cutter, and a stick welder all in one unit and not have to bring a compressor with you. So that's pretty exciting. I don't know of anything on the market out there right now that is comparable to this welder. So I'm pretty excited to get going on this review and show you what features it has, what it's capable of, and show you some welding and some cutting with it in different scenarios. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so let's go over what this thing comes with from the factory. So it comes with a 200 amp size, air-cooled, variable amperage right on the torch, TIG torch. So it has a switch and it has a dial for varying your amperage on the fly. So that's a pretty uncommon thing in the TIG world, to get a variable amperage adjustment right on your TIG torch. So that's a new item that I hadn't seen before. So it comes with that. It comes with an argon hose. It didn't come with a regulator, so you're going to have to buy a regulator or use one that you already have. But it does come with an argon hose. It comes with a heavy-duty all brass ground clamp. It comes with 45 amp plasma torch. It's got a safety guard and hookups to hook up to the front of the welder. And it also comes with a stick welding lead, so that you can hold your electrodes. So that's pretty much what comes in the box. It does come with a air regulator that bolts on the back. I've already got that mounted, and that is for hooking up your plasma cutter to your shop supplied air if you wanted to. And it does come with some TIG consumables. It's basic setup just to get you welding, and you'll have to buy your own consumables after the fact. Alright, let me turn this around. We'll take a look at the interface and how this display works and all the settings. Alright, so here we are at the front of the welder. I'm just going to turn it on so you can hear what it sounds like. It has auto sensing for the voltage, so whether you plug it into 120 or 240 volts, it knows what it is and it limits the settings accordingly to that. Alright, let me zoom this in and we will take a look at the interface and how it works. Alright, here we have the interface or display, and it defaults to AC TIG when you turn it on. And right now you can see we have it set at 45 amps. It has a basic little pyramid that you see in a lot of welders these days. And the main dial here is kind of your interaction with it as far as which one selects. Right now, when it's set in the default setting, it's just set so you can adjust your amperage. If you want to change any of the parameters other than amperage, then all you do is push the knob once. It will click to the next one down, which is downslope. We then have your stop amperage, and then we have post flow. I have it set at 5 seconds right now for after use or after argon flow. Down here we have AC balance. I have it set at 30. We have hertz. It defaults to 60 hertz. And then we have pre-gas flow. I have it set at half a second. Then we have start amps. We have upslope amps. And then we're back to the regular amperage. So when you're in AC Tig, it also has a smart function. So if you're beginning to learn how to weld aluminum, you have it on AC Tig, you can hit the smart setting, and depending on the thickness and the weld position, it will automatically adjust. So right now it's at 3/16 thickness, and so it's automatically set 154 amps. I'm also in the position here is overhead. I can switch this to just flat on the bench, or I can do vertical, and it will adjust the amperage accordingly. So that's a handy feature. It also allows you, if you're beginning, just to not have to think about, what do I need to do for settings. It's a great quick way to get welding aluminum and not have to worry about, looking up settings and all that. You just put in your thickness, put in your weld position, and it'll automatically adjust the amperage for you, depending on what you choose. And to turn off the smart, you just hit the button again. You also have your torch mode, which is 2T, 4T, and foot pedal. So depending on which way you want to go, if you're just going to use the button, you can do 2T or 4T. In the variable amperage torch that it comes with, you have to have it on foot pedal because that will give you the variable amperage. If you just want to use just the button to trigger the welding, you just put it on 2T or 4T. 2T is press the button, when you let go it turns off. 4T is press the button and let go, it stays welding until you press the button again and then shuts it off. One of the things that the center button also does in TIG is if you hold it for 3 seconds, it will go to pulse. And so you can adjust your pulse settings. These don't light up until you hold it for 3 seconds. So right now we're at 70 amps. We have the peak amperage, and then we have the secondary amperage. So generally you set that much lower. And then you have your pulse frequency, how many times a second that you want that to pulse. So when you want to turn it off, you just hold the button again, and you'll see that those pulse settings disappear. You know your pulse is off now. Alright, we'll move over to DC TIG. So the settings for, I have pulse on right now, so we're going to turn that off. But as you can see, DC TIG has the same thing, pulse settings, and it has the same basic TIG settings that AC TIG does. You have your pre-gas, start amps, upslope, main amps, downslope, stop amps, and post flow. The only thing you don't have over here is your AC balance and frequency that you had with AC TIG. Moving down to stick, the unit does default when you turn it to stick to VRD mode, which is voltage reduction. So it's a safety feature that if the welder hasn't welded for 3 seconds, it shuts it down so that you can't arc to your hand or something like that. So it's a safety feature that keeps you from getting electrocuted. It also has arc force and hot start. For you stick welders, it helps with keeping the arc or the electrode from sticking, and it also helps in starting the arc so that it doesn't want to stick. So those are nice features to have if you're doing a lot of stick welding. We move on to cut. Down here you'll see that there's a tiny compressor right there. That's how you know you're using your outside shop air from your compressor through the back. So it won't turn on the compressor when you strike the arc with the plasma cutter. And within this, you can adjust your amperage up to 45. I have it plugged into 231 volts it's sensing right now. If I had plugged it into only 120 volts, it would limit this down to 25 amps. So moving on down here to cut with compressor, this turns on the compressor so that when you hit the trigger on the plasma gun, it'll automatically give you its own air from internal and not take the air from the outside. All right, one of the things I did want to show on the back of this welder is these are the settings for your plasma cutter. It has gas out and gas in right here, and when you're using it with the onboard compressor, it loops to itself. When you want to swap over to shop air, all you do is disconnect the hose and hook it up like that, hook your compressor up to it, set your pressure, and now you're running off shop air. That's pretty simple.
Alright, I need to pause right here because in the video I was showing you how the hose hooks up to either the outside air connection on the regulator or loop to itself on the inflow and outflow on the unit. And right here I left the hose unhooked for the rest of this segment, and you need to make sure that you leave that hose either hooked up, looped to itself, or to the external compressor attachment on the regulator, because if it's not hooked up to air, it will cause damage to the torch. So make sure you keep it either hooked up to the compressor or to external air.
Here's your gas input, here's your power switch, this is for your argon. But one of the cool things that this has the hookups so that if you wanted to, you could use the plasma cutter with a CNC plasma table. So that's a pretty darn handy feature in my eyes, because if you have a plasma table, or you want to build a plasma table, you don't have to get another plasma torch. Most of the time you have to go buy a CNC compatible plasma torch, and they usually cost quite a bit more. This unit comes with CNC capability built right in. So that's a pretty amazing function for an affordable plasma cutter like this. All right, so now I want to do some welding and test this welder out. So I've got some aluminum tacked up here. I'm going to do some joints. I've got some 1/16 inch aluminum diamond plate. I've got some 3/16 plate, and I'm just going to do a butt weld. And I've got some 1/4 inch 60-61 that I'm going to do an outside corner with. So we'll see how this thing welds aluminum. All right, so I've got some 1 inch mild steel that I'm gonna do a little bevel joint with. All right, so here are some close-ups of some of the welds that I did with the CT2050. Here we have some stainless, some 1/4-inch aluminum, some 1-inch mild steel tubing, some 3/16 aluminum, some 16th-inch diamond plate, and there's some 1/8-inch cold-rolled steel. Anyway, I think you can see that this thing welds really nice, and I'm very happy with how the welds came out. It's very stable arc, very clean welding, not a lot of arc wander or instability. It has a great high frequency start, and I think it's a very capable TIG welder. And I really enjoyed getting to weld with it and getting an early look at this amazing TIG welder. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to showcase was this unit's ability to be taken out into the field. To me, this is one of the biggest benefits of this unit, is the fact that I can take it out into the field. Here I'm 100 feet from my house. I just happen to have an outlet here. I've got an extension cord run. It's only 120 volts. So obviously that limits it down to 25 amps of plasma cutting. But still, the fact that I'm able to come out here away from my house and cut some old rusty steel off that I may, have a big piece that I don't want to carry all the way home, and I just need a chunk off of it. And for me, that's worth a lot. So we're going to see what it can do. I've got it just hooked up to the regular extension cord. And this is 1/4-inch thick structural steel. I'm pretty impressed. It cut right through 1/4-inch. If I had a straight edge or something to go against, I just did freehand and it made a pretty clean cut. If I just needed a chunk of steel, it would work great. If I needed a nice clean cut, I'd put a straight edge on it and run it down that. It's pretty amazing for a plasma cutter on 25 amps running off its own compressor to be able to pull this off. So I'd have to say I'm pretty impressed.
All right, so here I'm just gonna do some stick welding with some 7018 rod. Same thing, 1/4-inch structural steel. Just gonna tack it up here and try it out. The arc force and the hot start work great. I don't have any issues with sticking or maintaining the arc. It's a very very smooth arc, and it worked great as a stick welder.
All right, so let's go over the review of this TIG welder and cutter, the CT2050. From my experience with using it, I'd say this is a great machine. I have a lot of experience with YesWelder products, and I can tell you that their reliability is amazing. I've had their welders for a few years now, and I've never had an issue with any of mine. So to say I'm a fan is an understatement. But my thoughts on this particular welder are that this is a great 200 amp TIG welder. I used it as a plasma cutter out in the field and on my shop air, and it performs flawlessly. I did use it as a stick welder as well. I'm not the greatest stick welder, so I'm not going to go much into that, but the fact is that you have the availability to do stick welding. It performs as good as I can. I'm sure it performs actually much better than I can. The way I look at a machine like this is that the ability to have a plasma cutter and aluminum capable TIG welder, AC/DC, in one unit is a pretty amazing machine. And anytime you can combine machines like this, it saves shop space, it saves money because you don't have to buy two separate machines, and it helps with the budget for a small shop or a guy in his garage doing DIY projects. Having a built-in compressor and being mobile with a plasma cutter, I think, is a great feature. In fact, when they told me that they were coming out with this, I was like, wow, that's impressive that you were able to pack a 45 amp plasma cutter and a 200 amp TIG welder into a package this size. So having such a small package, having two machines in one, actually three, because you have a stick welder, TIG welder, and plasma cutter all in one package, I think that's pretty amazing. So overall, my evaluation of this welder is extremely positive. I think it's great if you're a guy wanting to learn how to TIG weld aluminum. This is a great machine to get started with. It's not super expensive, and you can also use it for plasma cutting and stick welding should you need to. So I'm very impressed. If you're looking for a great welder to get started on TIG welding and plasma cutting all in one unit, I think this is a great choice. Anyway, that's about it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Hope you enjoyed the review, getting to see a early look at this amazing TIG welder and cutter. So I thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next review. All right, thanks.